Yay, I am appalled. I am appalled that we have not been looking at your chart until now. Oh my gosh. Wow. You are so important and integral to this process. And specifically the markings that I found, if my resource is, accurate and legit, which I do believe the basis behind it is, um, you have a unique signature, um, for right now that's really important, and it's situated in a part of your natal chart. So I think to get the full picture, we have to look at your progress chart, which is a new area for me to understand. And I'm getting there, but just based on your natal chart, what's happening now in your starseed markings, it's really clear, at least from a tropical perspective, tropical astrology, Western astrology. I haven't really dug into Vedic astrology as much either. Um, Probably going to show even more amazing things, but just from this right now, um, everything that's happening now seems to be exactly where you need to be, and there's a very good reason for it. So what I've done, we'll look at the chart. I'm going to try to keep it as succinct as possible because I'm just going to send you my notes. It has all of your stuff in your chart and the Sabian symbol written down, and then I have each of the star seed locations and what planets and their degrees have what aspect to them, and that way you can do research and stuff. But I'm going to talk about the most important things to right now that seem to be really important. Okay. um, this way you can do all the research you want about the specific aspects that have to do with each star seed, like identity. But there are specific things that are standing way out that you probably already understand, but just based on our conversations, your process through these situations emotionally and your ability to transmute them is essential actually to what is happening, and you're going to be able to teach people this, but only by stepping away from this tribal kind of earth-based, um, I'll show you with the Sabian symbol, just the way that you, I mean, it's kind of like stepping out when we're all doing this, especially Aquarian people, but you especially in this chart, like being asked to step away from the tribal mentality in terms of the cultural significance and the cultural expectations in order to come into a much higher realm of being that's also much more dense and active in terms of interactions, but you have something really important. So by doing the inner work in terms of like all the stuff I've been talking about with the opposition and seeing the opposite, like you're already like, you are already uniquely primed to have this encoded in you based on where you seem to mostly be from and where your MC or your 10th house, which is your career, your legacy in this life, what you offer to the collective that's substantial and has material form, um, that is also plays into this really strongly. So I'm going to share a screen and I'll point out those areas in particular. All right. So, and I will send you, I'll just share this document with you. And it has, like I said, all the sun signs, what house each thing is, or the Sabian symbols, and what house everything is in, and your AC, your fourth house, your ascendant, your IC, which is your fourth house, your DC, your seventh house, your MC, your 10th house, and then your starseed markings. And it's really basic. If you're in a conjunction, a trine, or a sextile, all balanced aspects, then your ego has integrated the past life of from that sector or that starseed sector, wherever that planet is and what star system it's from. And then if you have a square or an opposition, that means your ego has not necessarily, it's not very well integrated into your current like human ego. And you can see, I'll be able to explain how some of these, not all of them, but the ones that seem to be very basic and really important to right now. So let's look at your chart. This is your natal chart. So we already went over this. It's been, a couple of months, and I feel like that my ability to read has like grown exponentially since then. So there's so many things that I feel like we didn't go over. I also added the asteroids here. So Vesta, Pallas Athena, and they're all clustered actually, and then Ceres, and then Juno. So you have two of these goddess asteroids, Vesta, the goddess of the hearth and of commitment to the well-being of the community, Vesta, and then Ceres, which is the goddess of the grains, goddess of agriculture. It is nature herself, who provides the growing cycle and the bounty of the planet. Um, both at 29 degrees, one is Scorpio, one is Sagittarius. So that's pretty strong in terms of this goddess energy. Most of mine are actually in Capricorn in the 12th house, which so and maybe they do seem to cluster together, but there's so much activity in the bottom of your chart that you are like so well supported in the development of who you are and where your power is and how you communicate. But then you have Jupiter and Saturn up at the top of the chart. You have your Chiron here and your Mars in the 11th house. So what you will find is most of the planets right now are actually situated in this part of the chart for you. I would say not past right here, because this is where the current north node is. It's almost about to line up with 0 degrees Cancer. So everything else seems to be all along here. And this is all stuff having to do with other people and your relationship with the other. Not to say that there's not stuff going on here. You still have Neptune that's like sitting on your DC, just a couple degrees past it. But, you know, right here, Chiron is right here, Mercury's in your 7th house, you know, so we're dealing with those themes about how you show up in relationship. And now the sun is in your 8th house. You have Uranus that's still in the 8th house at 6 degrees Taurus. And then you don't even move over till the 9th house until about 14 degrees Taurus. So, but guess, you know, here's where Venus is cruising through your 9th house. She's been doing this for a while. She's going to hit your MC really quickly. Like, let me look at my notebook and see which day, if I've gone ahead that far, because this or your MC, your career, what you're here to leave a legacy of, you know, the archetype of what you're here to leave a legacy for, the best possible outcome for Earth. You know what I mean? What you're here to build for everybody, including yourself. That's your MC. And what gives you externalized, like, institutional power. You know, people's careers often give them that, but it's really about what are you bringing, you know, what are you actually, what is your alchemy actually creating? You know what I mean? So let's see here, Venus. I just want to see if I've gone that far ahead. I've gone all the way up to the new moon, which is going to be really important. So the new moon is going to happen in your 8th house. And this is where a lot of energy, the sun and Uranus, and this is where your Chiron is. Now the degree for this right here, this 2 degrees of Taurus, is an electrical storm. And the 8th house, as you probably know, is about sex. It's about death. It's about the shadow. It's about the balance of power. All of these themes. So shared resources in a business, shared resources with your partner, shared resources sexually and intimately, shared resources as a result of any relationship, whatever that relationship is. That's the 8th house, and it's usually very emotional because we're talking about Scorpio energy. And you know, we want to get down to the bottom of things. We want to understand the root causes of things. This is about psychology and depth psychology and the shadow, all that stuff. This is where your Chiron is, you know, that deep original wounding of the self. And there's an electrical storm, 2 degrees Taurus, an electrical storm. And it's the idea that, you know, lightning and electricity is a natural force, and it will come through and just like turn everything around like in a flash. And it's just as natural as everything else, but it's so powerful. And it's really just like, it's the moving of electrons. It's a very natural process. But there is, and this degree where your 8th house is in Aries, 14 degrees Aries, it's amazing. It's the serpent coiling, you know, between a man, near a man and a woman. I mean, it's the Kundalini energy. So you do, and it's the ritualization of relationship as the of the natural rhythm of our world, and in all relationship, you know, and that's where power comes from. The kundalini is the power, right? The serpent coiling is the power. You have an incredible perception of that from, you know, one of the deepest, especially because you have a moon in Scorpio opposite here of this area, at least in the opposite in the house. You know, you have your moon in the second house. It's actually right on this cusp, you know, second and third house cusp. In the second house is the resources you have that you come in with, that's around you, the world around you. And the eighth house is the resources you share as a result of your bond with something or somebody. And your ability to not only understand the power that is inherent in all relationships with this cusp here. Sorry, I gotta close this window because this dog won't stop and it's really distracting me. Oh no. Okay. Okay. So not only that, but I think where this wound might come from, and you will have to do the work about this to figure out really, is that there's also a capacity for you to like harness this lightning bolt and make, you know, the electrical storm. Remember, like you have Mercury as your chart ruler, and then you have Uranus as your your ruling planet, or not your ruling, yeah, your ruling planet, because you have a sun in Aquarius, and so the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, the ruler of Virgo is Mercury, and so you have these two planets that have to do with the mind, being your rulers, like your most prominent energies. And so the electrical storm is something that is part of both of those aspects, especially Aquarius, because 2 degrees Aquarius is also an unexpected thunderstorm. So we have the same imagery, even though these things, Aquarius and Taurus are actually square to each other. But this is more about the natural energy, and the ability to hold space for it. It's like, you know, that at any moment, like the power of nature could just reconfigure everything. And you have such a, I think the wound comes from your ability to manage that so well that I think it really makes people don't want to acknowledge how, they don't want to acknowledge those things, and you do. You understand them. Again, you have this Scorpio, you know, your moon in Scorpio, Uranus in Scorpio. You have Vesta at the last degree of Scorpio. She's your service and commitment archetype. I mean, you're definitely have a strong Scorpio component. And I think that there's something here, this, you know, we're all working with shame and deep wounding, this victim savior mentality. Oh, come back. There we go. We're all dealing with that. And I think that you are willing to embody and maybe even be, I think it's more of an embodiment, because it is a very, Uranus is like lightning. It's like electricity. So, and it's about the discharge of energy too. It's the lightning bolt change. It's the quick disruption. And I think you have such a strong capacity to hold that. And there's this, like, if you, I mean, you could really, and based on the rest of your chart, that capacity and the way that you understand the deep ritualization of relationships and the natural rhythms of things, I think that being able to resolve this, so that you don't feel like they're doing anything wrong by being able to hold that much power within, and to accept that things like that change. It makes it hard. It makes things seem dramatic, I think, a lot of the time, because you're willing to stand in your power, and that's, people will try to shame you for doing that. So that's, you know, like I said, the sun is here now in this eighth house, shining light on it, and Uranus has been here and will continue to be here until it passes over to the ninth house, which is about higher education and understanding and belief systems. But right now, it's just wreaking havoc for you. And now the sun being here, shining the light about this situation. There's a lot going on. And then, like I said, Chiron and Mercury are in your seventh house. So everybody's wound, as well as the mind, the agent of the mind, is going through and giving you a lot of information about like you in the context of other relationships. Because here we've talked about this. This is the tent, um, the circus tent, the ability to organize things into a coherent, fluid whole, and everything going. You know, you're really good at being able to be a ringleader in some ways, and that I think that's a really strong trait. The problem is that when you have Pisces, there's just no boundaries. And so once you get past Pisces into this part of your seventh house, there's definitely like a sense of me without even thinking about boundaries. You're just like, I just am. So, you know, being able to, you know, Chiron's in this spot right now where we can, you know, the degree that Chiron is about being in two realms at once. And we obviously know what that means right now. And that is impacting the way you show up in relationship. And I think we're all dealing with that in a different part of our chart. And then Mercury too. And so it's no surprise in some ways that you're feeling pushback from people you used to be really close to about things, and that your ex is like coming up in weird ways. Like this is all part of this process. And you just have to like, you know, just take it one step at a time, because it's part of preparing you for like this final like unveiling, whatever it is. So we'll talk about that. Let's talk about that, because Venus now is in Gemini. It's in your ninth house. So she's showing, and Vesta in Gemini in your ninth house, and they're about to hit your MC. And they're kind of cruising together right now, Venus and Vesta, these two goddesses, one being the Empress, the incarnation of the divine feminine into like a material form in some ways. And then you have the goddess Vesta, who represents commitment and service to the community. You know, they're kind of traveling together in Gemini, which is it's about the polarity. It's about the, you know, the endless stream of ideas that are constantly there's always an opposition to any idea you have. There's never an idea that's absolute ever, right? There's always an opposition, because it's just energy. And there'll always be an opposition in 3D at least. And that's what Gemini is consciousness is created. The idea of consciousness, I am that I am, is created by the merging of duality. So Venus and Vesta are moving through this area where it's very conceptual still. You understand it. That is the basis of the alchemy, is the understanding of Gemini and the benefit of it. I mean, your ninth house cusp is in Taurus, right? It's 14 degrees Taurus, but right now they've moved into the Gemini portion, and they're going to hit your MC really soon. And then here, the North Node right now is in Cancer, has been in your 10th house, and is about to hit here, and then soon is going to hit Jupiter. And who's Jupiter? Jupiter is the leader, it's the master, it's the guru, the teacher, the philosopher. Jupiter is always expanding. Jupiter is optimizing. Jupiter is very abundant, because it's just like up and expand. It's like hot air, right? It is the fire of transmutation. That's what Jupiter represents, because it's representing Sagittarius. So so you have this imagery of your MC that is a gypsy person coming out of the woods essentially from their encampment, and it's the integration into a higher state of mental activity and more tense relationships. I mean, you can start to see now why I'm saying what I'm saying, because this is your MC, this is your career, this is the legacy you're meant to leave. And it's to come out of this tribal kind of like mentality, and not necessarily leaving behind where you come from, but coming out of the, you know, the shelter of the forest and of the group, in order to interact with people in a way that is of a higher mind. And you accept the impact of that as having tense interpersonal relationships. So I mean, so much of what's happening now is teaching you, and like not even teaching you, just like preparing you and activating you to step into this. And so with the North Node is already in your 10th house, has constantly been where we're collectively going is where you're headed, in terms of where you've been headed in terms of your career. And it's been showing you that's the head of the dragon. So it's like the sights of the dragon. You're looking right through the eyes of the dragon that's taking us all where we're going. And you're seeing what your legacy is going to be. right? And so it'll cross 0 degrees, come into Gemini, where the nodes will be for about 18 months, and Gemini and Sagittarius, and then it's going to hit Jupiter. What is that Sabian symbol? I have it right here, 27. And so Jupiter is one of your starseed markings in Gemini, and we'll get to that. Let's see here. Jupiter. And so is your Saturn. A gypsy emerging from the forest. Oh, that's the one. A gypsy emerging from the forest wherein her tribe is encamped. That's where Jupiter is. A conscious attempt to leave behind the tribal, instinctual stage of earthbound existence and to emerge into the realm of the mind and complex, tense, interpersonal relationships. Okay, that's where Jupiter is in your 10th house. Jupiter's the teacher, and Jupiter's retrograde. So it usually means that it's much more loud and obnoxious and noticeable. And so in your 10th house, there is this symbol here of this teacher and this master, like really drawing your attention to the fact that what your career is and what you are blueprinted, what you're encoded for is to be the, to be the person, to come out of this instinctual, like tribal mentality in order to engage in a higher realm of mental activity with people. And you accept the challenge that comes along with it because you're leaving behind everything you know. And Jupiter, whether or not it's teaching you or you are the teacher in this situation, I think what's important is to know is that we are talking about Gemini, which is, again, facing the opposition and accepting that it's one and the same as you, but that you also stand in your own power as an opposition. So where is your MC? I got that wrong. The head of the robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. Oh my God. Okay. All right. That's your MC, or your 10th house cusp. The transformation of physical vitality into the power to build concepts and intellectual formulations through which knowledge can be transferred. Okay. Now, this is where the starseed stuff is going to start coming in. Now, do you see what I'm talking about here, though, in terms of your 10th house, your MC? Now, Venus is going to come over here soon, right? Vesta is going to hit this spot. And then you have Mercury that's going to come through. The sun's going to come through. I mean, over the next couple of months, all of these energies are going to come and like come over this zone. And then the nodes are going to come backwards and hit this zone as well. And so there's going to be a lot of attention focused on this area for you. And you can already feel it building. You can already see how the fractures are happening so that you have an opposition to face, right? And you have a way to teach other people about how we need to come out from behind or within the little microcosms that protect us and make us feel safe, which is important. And we have to come out and step into the future, right? We have to step from 3D into the 5D. And you are going to teach people how to do that. You're going to expand on that, and that's going to be part of your career. And you are blueprinted, you're encoded to come in and do this as you're taking everything that you've learned so far as a younger person, and you are shifting. Again, it's this shift from one dynamic to the other, one end of the spectrum to the other. So the robust, youthful activist or whatever, and then you step into the mature thinker. And this is the essence of your career, of what you have to offer to us and humanity. It's wonderful. So we're looking at Gemini. Now, this is where the starseed stuff comes in. Okay, there's a lot of things. Now, let me explain how I do this. Now, there's one resource that I use in terms of like all of my information, basic information, and I will send you a link to that and you can start reading. Most of this stuff will make sense to you. What they say, and this is the person who discovered these markings as a result of her years of astrology and also having tons of ET experiences, especially with the Pleiadians, like in real time. So the galactic degrees for starseed markings are 25, 26, and 27. Anywhere in your chart or your house cusps. That's my understanding. Now, I have another resource and that's just like Pleiadian for the most part. But if you have 25, 26, or 27 in your chart, you have the galactic markings to be considered a starseed by this particular group, whom I trust. And then there's another resource I have that takes their basic ideology and their technique, expands it a little bit to include a lot of different star systems. And so there is an actual, like, it's basically if you have stars, if you have astrological markings, like if any of your planets or points are at the degrees of stars in a constellation that hold a specific star system that we are familiar with, then you are likely from that star system. So that's kind of the basic idea. So, and there's a lot, and we all have, you know, a lot, like both of us, you and I are both have stuff in Andromeda, and you can even see like your Mars here, right? Your Mars is square to the degrees listed for Andromeda. That means it's not well integrated into your ego or your consciousness, but Jupiter, we just talked about in Gemini, is. And the cool thing about Andromedans, from what I understand, because it's a totally different galaxy, we have wings. We have wings. We have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 2 wings, which is really cool. There's Arcturian. Yes, definitely Lyran. Your ascendant is trine to one of the stars in the constellation, and that would mean that your descendant is also it's in a sextile, so it's in a supportive. And then Juno, asteroid Juno, is conjunct. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty, there's a pretty strong resonance that is very well integrated into your psyche, into your consciousness, your ego consciousness, anyhow, because they're all conjunct and trine and sextile. You have a little bit of Sirian, which is not well integrated. But here's the kicker. You have a ton of Orion markings, including your MC. And so I'm going to read to you, and then you have Sun, your Sun, and the sixth house cusp, and then Saturn, and your 12th house cusp are both in a supportive position to the Orion constellation. And so you're going to start looking up stuff about Orion, because this is really important for you, because this is part of what your role is going to be in this new world, because it's your ability. Here, I'll just show you Orion. Okay. And I tried to actually just like send this to you, but because I bought it online, and it's online, it's a PDF that you access through a server. So I can't like copy and paste it. So, but you will be able to look at it on this video as I go through this is just really basic, but I found like it helped. And you should do some research about Orion, because you have the most markings here, and they are directly related, specifically your MC, to what is coming up soon. So Orion, you know, the constellation of Orion, it's located in Gemini, and there's, you know, that there's already like different factions of Orions, and some of them have not had the best intentions, and some of them obviously had. And it says, like other races of beings, they have agreed to help Earth in our spiritual evolution by seeding Orions into human bodies on Earth. This is what you are definitely one of these people, and by acting as spiritual guides to individual people. Insatiable thirst for knowledge, analyze and dissect all forms of information, hold opinions very strongly, need quantitative proof to accept opposing viewpoints, quite knowledgeable about a wide area of topics, react to emotions in a logical manner, require alone time to recharge. I mean, these are all things you understand. So I'll just leave it up so you can read it, and you can always come back to it. And it said, this is the part though. Orion operates from a place of duality. While they are very enlightened beings, their duality allows Orions to operate with a bit of ego. Now, my starseed markings, this is my 5th house cusp, which is 15 degrees Gemini. So all of that like Leo lion energy that which is the 5th house, you know, what is it? What are you passionate about? What are you lustful about? What are you romantic? You know, like what turns your crank? Like what gets you excited about life? You know, what is the full expression of you? Is your 5th house. And so that's my cusp is Orion. And so I can already feel it. Like all of this stuff is about to like come online in terms of like writing and what I'm doing right now. operate with a bit of ego, yeah, and enjoy the competition of sports and strive for perfection in a skill. That definitely sounds like me, and I'm sure it sounds like you. In contrast, a Pleiadian, which you do have Pleiadian, and so do I, would likely not want to keep score and accept that wherever you are in the development of a skill is exactly where you should be. That's so Pleiadian. Orions understand their duality and they have learned to rather enjoy it. However, Orions may come off a little self-centered or cold as they have a slightly weaker emotional body. That is offset by the Pleiadian aspect for both of us, actually. They operate with a bit more divine masculine energy and often forget to consider one's emotions when delivering a message. I almost said massage, that's weird, or a teaching. And then they embody the solar plexus, and they have excellent at teaching people to master their willpower to operate at their highest potential. Okay, so I just want you to understand how much this is connected to your 10th house and how your career and your legacy and your ability to hold the line and to, you want to get to the truth. You have, I'm sure you're an indigo, which is basically somebody that has actual bloodline, ET bloodline. Oh, we already talked about this. You have AB. This is essential operating out of duality because Orions not only are been completely integrated into our society, they are comfortable operating there and are able to, I think, able to debate really well. And part of that is to learn as much as they can about a subject and be able to dissect it. Like it says, analyze and dissect all forms of information. This is very important to what you have to offer and what is coming out of what your personal transformation and your alchemy. And to let's look at your chart when the new moon is happening. It's 3 degrees Taurus, which is when Ramadan starts. This is in your 8th house. This area is really where you need to, I would say, focus your inner work right now, because this is where your Chiron wound is. This is where the new moon is going to be on Earth Day, and this is where the sun is right now. And I mean, Chiron is moving along, but it's not moving that fast. And so that's a dynamic that's not going away in terms of relationship, right? You slowly but surely, but the energy of the sun and Mercury soon will move into your 8th house as well. And Uranus here in this new moon, this dynamic, the power dynamic in duality, being able to master that to the point where you can just like throw that lightning bolt and discharge everything immediately. I mean, your ability to understand that and to do that is really, really strong. And this is going to set you up to be able to fulfill this, to activate this right here, this 10th house. Yeah, it's incredible. I was so excited when I started looking at it. I was like, oh my God. So I would look up stuff about Orion star seeds and the concept that and also look up the Andromedan galaxy, because that's where you have your Jupiter is well balanced within your that starseed lineage, the Andromeda galaxy. I don't know a ton about them, and so I would love to hear what you have. I would love to do more research about this, but I feel like that God, there's only so much space in my brain right now. I think that's okay. So I hope this gives you some insight. If you have any specific questions, you can always send me a message and just ask me. But I'm trying to send you as much information as I collected so you can have a reference point to come back to. So if you get confused, but I'll send you that, I'll share the document with you, and then I'll send you a link to the Starseed hotline, because that way you can get familiar with their information, because they're kind of they're my resource other than this book that I have about the actual markings. But yeah, that was fun. I haven't actually done a reading in weeks and weeks, and that was a really good feeling. So I'm looking forward to doing more. All right, buddy, I will talk to you sooner than later. See you.